Well, welcome. So excited to be here and we're talking with you all today. Again, my name is McCord. I'm the head coach at Jacksonville University. And what I'm here to talk to you about is the recruiting process. And what I like to say is over my last 24 years of being involved in the game, that being a Division I coach isn't what qualifies me to talk to you about any of this. In fact, what I really feel like I want to share with you today is my experience as a parent who went through the recruiting process, my experience as a parent who went through the transfer process, my experience as a club director, my experience as a high school coach, a youth coach, and a coach at the college level at 2 different divisions. So for me, my experience comes from really seeing it through a lot of different eyes and perspectives, so I can relate to right where you are and what you're thinking and going through, and I hope to be able to answer most of your questions, but please feel free to even interrupt me during this, and if a question of something I'm going through is present and on your mind, we can make this certainly interactive. So first things first, players that are in here, if you have a phone on you, go ahead, take 10 seconds and check out your notifications. Go ahead. You know, I know this is new age technology. Go ahead, look at your phones, take a peek, whatever you want to do. You got 10 seconds. All right, now let's hold our phones up in the air. This is a really fun interactive thing. Okay, you ready? Everybody's gonna sing with me. Na 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 na, na 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 na. Hey hey hey, put your phones away. All right, just kidding. What I really want you to do is pull out your notes on your phone and turn off all your notifications, because I do want you to take notes, and I want you to feel like I'm going to give you some things to put in your toolbox today. Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's a couple things that you can take, so write them down, because it's hard to remember everything in a lot of these presentations that you're going to be hearing about. But turn off all the other distractions. That's my first lesson for you, is in the recruiting process, is be present. You know, when you're talking to people or you're listening, be present. Make sure there aren't outside distractions. You have the art that if you're in a conversation, if you and I are in a conversation, and one of you guys comes up to interrupt us, because we get interrupted often, do you have the ability to stay present in that conversation and not turn and get distracted and change your focus? Because today we're going to talk about your ability to focus through a microscope and a telescope. Those are the 2 perspectives in recruiting that I want you to have when you leave here. So the perspectives that I want to give you is an acronym called FIT. FIT applies to coaches, and it applies to players and parents going through the recruiting process. This is a system that I think will make it simple for you. It'll help you to not feel so daunting through the process, and it's a system as coaches that we use to find that marriage or that dating, courting relationship, and that's what recruiting is, right? I mean, come on, like if someone's going to buy you an expensive diamond ring, you're not just going to marry them for it, right? I mean, it'd be kind of an idea, but you're going to go through the dating process first. I mean, if your guidance counselor told you to date a particular kid in school, you're not just going to date that kid because of your guidance counselor and what they tell you, right? Of course not. So the word I want to share with you is called vetting. Vetting is your ability to educate yourself in the process so that by the end of figuring out your fit, you could have maybe 1 to 3 schools you could say yes to that fit all the characteristics in your fit. So what does that mean for players and for parents? That means that academics absolutely needs to be the #1 choice in your fit. Because we hate to think that maybe our playing career would end one day, but let's keep in mind that even if we're on a scholarship, that's not always guaranteed year to year. And you have to pick a school that can help you really reach your academic goals. One of my favorite questions when we were in the recruiting process that I like to ask coaches So my daughter was interested in business, and I'd like to ask them, how many four-year players graduated from your program in business? How many four-year players majored in nursing and graduated and played? Because it's really easy in the recruiting process for people to say that you can major in something, but what is the likelihood that they've had actually four-year graduates that have done it? And then what have they done with that major? So that's a great question to ask that will help you to really identify more of an academic fit. The other thing that you're considering right now is I like to break it down in three things. When you're creating your spreadsheets, you want to be able to break it down. Is this a likely fit that I can get into the school based on my current academic status with my test scores or my grades? Is this a target? I'm on target to get into the school if I maintain my academics right now? Or is this a reach? You know, it's a little above my reach, but I got 2 years, I can really hone in. If I hit these marks, then I can meet these qualifications. So try to break down your recruiting process athletically and academically into likely, target, and reach. And have at least about 30 schools that you can go through that process and figure that out. Also from academics is job placement and graduate school placement. This is so important, guys, because lacrosse isn't going to pay your bills when you're out of college. And for parents, you guys are saying the same thing. I see a lot of shaking heads in there. I was very excited that we handed over the bills to my daughter because she got a job and after she got her MBA, and it was very exciting. You know, our budget improved, and this is so important. If you have a major that you may need an advanced degree in, what's the placement rate that this school can help provide in your 4 years? What's the connection into other universities for doctoral programs or graduate programs or specialty programs? And how does this school help network you? How many other athletes have gotten master's degrees or pursued post-education that are on that team? They have data, and your vetting ability makes you have the ability to know if your child can pursue a degree later in life because of the success that that program has had, or their alumni relationships, or other networking at the school with their academic services. Okay, so this is very important, as well as job placement. Some people might not be continuing on to school, but what's the ability of these coaches and the school to be able to put your kid into a job that they can pay their bills, that they can help pay off student loans? This is also important. I get sad when I see people that have loans and they're not able to get a job when they get out of college because maybe they didn't find the correct networks. So again, vetting. It's so important to have good questions to ask in the recruiting process so that you all can set yourselves and your children up for success. Athletically, what's the fit athletically? Guys, we can go and as coaches and watch all your games. We can watch you on video, and that's part of it. You know, coaches are going to look for different things. Every coach looks for something different. They're looking for maybe academic vigor, honors classes. Some schools don't require that. Maybe some schools are SAT optional, so they don't need that. So there might be a fit that a school needs academically. There may be a fit that a school is looking for athletically. So a lot of schools, coaches will evaluate you based on speed of mind, your lax IQ, speed of body, and that can be broken down into your ability to accelerate, your max velocity, and your ability to change direction. Okay. And then they're going to look also at your ability to elevate others around you and your compete. Ideally, those are the complete athletes that we aspire to coach. You know, kids that are smart, that aspire to want to learn, players that are athletic, they care about their skills, their athleticism, their nutrition, they care about wanting to improve their game, and players that want to elevate others and be good teammates to each other, and players that want to compete. I mean, there's a winner and there's a loser in this game, guys. We all want to win. winning isn't everything, but your ability to compete and play at your very best is. And if you can really keep working throughout your recruiting process on those areas, you're going to find that a lot of schools are attracted to you. And as the coaches are finding that marriage and that dating process, you're finding that too with them. So how do you do that athletically? What's the fit for you athletically? Watch games on ESPN3. Go to colleges and watch games. You all know your strengths and the things you're working on as players. If you can watch a team play, and honestly at the end of watching them play say, I can play here, that's just as important as the ability for that coach to choose you. Because I can tell you, I've chosen a lot of players who didn't have the confidence when they came in to compete. A lot of people will say, well, will you play? Will I play my freshman year? Will I play in college? A lot of that's dependent on you and your feelings about, does the system of this play and the style of play at this college fit me? If you're a Dodger and you are a one-on-one player and that's how you get a lot of your goals, and this team is an off-ball, hit the person on the back cut, or they're a run-and-gun team, does that fit who you are as a player? So you've got to be able to watch the style of a lot of these teams and their systems and see if you fit into that style, and are you confident enough to put yourself in that situation to play? Because coaches are going to play players their freshman year through their senior year if they have that elevate, that confidence, and the athletic fit. Okay, so it's important for you to evaluate that and be able to bring that to the table in your recruiting process to narrow down your schools as well. Another thing athletically that's super important to do is roster check. Okay, so when you're looking at teams, go look at their rosters. See what positions are graduating when you're coming in. Life isn't fair. Sometimes coaches don't need goalies. Sometimes they're really full on attack and they're just not taking an attacker in that recruiting class. It may have nothing to do with your ability. It may simply have everything to do with their roster. Maybe they're really heavy on defenders that year, so they're only taking one. And so it's important to be able to look at rosters, understand what an average roster size is for each school, that's different for each school, and ask really good questions based on what your goals are. So you got to know what your goals are. When I went to college, I played at a Division III school, and I played 2 sports. So I wanted to be a dual athlete. That was important to me. And so I went to a Division III school to do that. But my goal when I was choosing that school is I wanted to compete for a championship. So I found conferences and schools that were at the top of their conference competing because I wanted to be a part of a winning program. So you have to be able to sort that out. And then, are you okay being on a national championship team but not playing? Some people are okay with that. Some people say, I got to be a starter and I want to be an All-American. You have to know what you're looking for, and you have to be able to know, can you meet your goals at that particular college or university based on what your desire is. So my daughter wanted to play on national championship team. She didn't care if she played, but after 2 years of practicing 20 hours a week and not playing, she changed her mind. It wasn't the number one reason why she changed her mind. She actually changed her mind because she hadn't developed authentic friendships. Because this sport is social. It's very social. And being able to come out of college and say, I have some best friends is just as important as competing and going to school. Because there's a social element of growth and interaction when you're choosing people that you want to be around. Okay? So you guys have to do your betting based on knowing your goals. The next thing that you want to consider is people, size, and location. All right, there's my analogy on this. Has anybody ever eaten cube steak? Yeah, okay, cube steak. It's not the best steak, but you know, it's okay. So I'm Yugoslavian. I grew up on cube steak. It's pretty good. But if someone offered me a piece of filet mignon and I said, oh no, that's not the size for me. I don't really want to be in the cold or the warm. So I refuse automatically your filet mignon. Really? Come on. That could have been the best piece of steak you've ever tried in your life. It's so juicy and tender and good. I don't know if you've ever had filet mignon, but I love it. Okay, so you have to be open to trying to see if maybe that location or that size is your filet mignon. You know, I went to a school and graduated with 800 kids in my class. I did not want to go to a small school. I was set on it, cube steak. But I ended up going to a private school with 2,500 students. Filet mignon, right? Because I found that fit for me. And that size didn't matter when I knew I had all those other components in place. So be open-minded. Don't allow another parent, a friend, guidance counselor, someone else to deter you away from their opinion of something. Be diligent. Take time to invest in the travel process and the vetting process of getting on those campuses, going on an admissions tour by yourself, going and talking to people around the campus without the recruiting experience, talking to professors, traveling and seeing how you would get to this location, looking in a classroom, going in a classroom and sitting and seeing what the sizes are like and feeling if that's a good environment for you. See, I wanted to go to a big school, but in terms of my learning style, I needed a classroom of 30 or less. I didn't really know that until I got to school, but I excelled in school because I was in a small classroom. I didn't know that in the recruiting process, and back when I was playing, there wasn't really a recruiting process. So, I'm dating myself. So this is important, guys. The next thing that you want to consider is people. Now this is the most important thing that I think is part of a consideration outside of the academics and the athletic component, is who would you want to be around for 20 hours a week? Seriously. When I look today, you know, I've had both of my husband and my parents are deceased. Some of our best friends have passed away. Like, literally, I'm going to choose who I want to be around with in my life now. Right? We're either on the same page or we're not. Because I'm not going to spend time with people I'm constantly butting heads with. That's not the kind of relationship that I want to have at this stage in my life. I don't want to be around parents that are the 5% of people I spend my most time fighting with when I want to focus on the 95% of the people that really want it and get it. You know? So, you remember, when you pick a college, you chose it. You chose it. And you hope to have 1 to 3 good choices through this fit process so that you're in the driver's seat. Not a coach, not just the finances, which we'll get to, but you chose it. So you have to create the mindset around that to be successful. Okay, so people, personalities. You have to vet coaches. I love it after freshman year and players will say, oh, you know, I didn't know that about you or them or this coach or that coach. And you say, well, then you didn't ask enough players or other people about us. Like, you have to be diligent to know those coaching styles, to go to their camps and be coached by them. You know, camps is a business. It is. We help to pay our assistant salaries through camps. But I'm going to tell you, the best recruiting thing is getting to a camp, because you get to live in the dorm with maybe their committed kids. You get to work with their players. You get to be coached by the coaches. You get to walk around campus and eat in their dining hall. So you get a lot more out of it than just a recruiting trip. It's worth the investment. How do you know if the school's really interested in you? Okay, guys, here's the big, bad, and ugly. We have recruiting programs. Coaches have recruiting programs that we can mass email all of you, and it looks personalized. Okay, that is mass marketing. So how do you know if you're getting this mass marketing or a real, true personal invitation? Usually, you can tell because the coach will have sent it directly from their personal email address. Usually, if you're getting a mass mail, it's an undisclosed email address. But if a coach is sending it, it's usually coming directly from their email address. And we'll go over timelines on types of communication in a minute. Okay, so you can also ask your club coaches or your high school coaches to check. We have new recruiting rules now in Division I at least, but which we'll go over. But you can definitely get other people to help ask, because it is an investment. You can't pick 10 schools to go to camps. We can't afford that. You have to pick a couple that you think your kid really has an opportunity to be recruited at. And camps are also important for learning. When my daughter played basketball, I was like, I just paid $550. What did you learn? Isn't this about development? We stay in the game because we're learning and improving. So your camp experience should also improve fundamental improvement. Not just recruiting. Coaches can come watch you playing games and recruit you, but your camp should also be a learning experience to take leverage in the value of your investment. So how do you make this fun? Because I know sometimes it can feel stressful. You're creating memories with your kids. We had a budget, and there were some schools we couldn't travel to because we had to, pay for that. But once we narrowed down our list of 30 and we did our fit and our spreadsheets and we got it down to 10, we invested in those trips. And those memories that we created as parents with our kids was phenomenal. It was life-changing. I would have spent 1,000 times more to do that over again. So make it fun, make it engaging, stop along the way and do something fun on your recruiting trips. This should not be stressful. You're in the driver's seat. So always keep that in mind. All right, so we've talked a little bit about people. Could you see yourself with those players and those coaches and those professors at that school for 20 plus hours a week? So if you can say yes to that, you got to fit in that area. Can you get a check mark in the athletic area? Can you get a check mark in the academic area? See, we're progressing through our list. So what's the involvement of parents in this role? Parents. Parents can really be an asset in organizing. So do you guys have to spend time studying, maybe a couple hours a week to study for a test? Do you think? Julia? Yeah? Okay, we have to invest to study to get a good grade on a test, just like we have to invest in our recruiting process. So put some structure into it. All right, Joey, we're going to schedule 3 hours this week. We're going to build it into your schedule to sit down and you're going to do your recruiting emails. What days and times do you want to build that in? It's not nagging them. They don't know how to do that. So help organize them, but don't do the emails for them. Let them sit down and do the emails. And then let them be a part of trying to research schools and collect the data. I'm going to give you a couple great resources for parents and players. Laxpower.com is a great resource. You know why? Because you can look up every division of every boys and girls school, college, university, and you can even look at their conferences. So you can see regionally where they're located. You can see who's first, who's last, who's been first for 10 years, who's been last for 10 years. I mean, you can see everything. You can see a school that was last and is an up-and-coming school to maybe have a shot at winning their league this year. Laxpower.com is a wealth of resource for investigation of schools. Laxpower.com. Okay? Collegeboard.com. It's a one-stop shop for researching academics, finances of schools, scholarship opportunities. It's a great resource. So put those in your computers and start to create your list. So spreadsheets. You're going to create a fit spreadsheet. It's going to say academic, athletic. It's going to say people, location, size. It's going to say finances. And then you're going to put a big smiley face if you can put check marks in all of those. And you're going to collect data. And you're going to collect those coaches' emails, and then your kids are going to, in that structured time, send those emails out of what they're doing, how they're doing it. See, it doesn't matter what the recruiting rules are for us. You can send us things whenever you want. You can text us, you can email us. That doesn't mean everybody can respond to you. We'll go over those timelines, like I said. But you have free access to your own marketing. A lot of people say, oh, that club director didn't get me recruited. Really? That's not true. That means you didn't do your recruiting process. All right, you have to be diligent to do your own homework and vetting to create your fit and list. So create your spreadsheets, get the data, parents, edit and proofread. That's what you can do. But let them put their own language in there. Let them make their own words. I know when a parent sends me an email, I know when a player sends me an email. I know it. I also hate it when someone sends me an email and addresses me by a different coach's name. Yeah. Sometimes I delete it, sometimes I don't. I don't know, it depends on my mood that day. Just kidding. But that's where a parent can come in the process, like proofreading and editing. All right, and send those emails out. You know, if you're at an event where you're playing in high school or college or in a club or a great tournament like this, send those out a week ahead of time. Give coaches an opportunity to get their list put together to come see you. They will see you. They will come see you if you send them information. Most of them. You know, it depends on where they are in their own recruiting process and what graduation year they're looking at. But most of the time, that's how you get on the radar. And I got another tip for you that's really cool. I remember as a parent, I'd sit on the sidelines, and on game 4, I'd be like, oh, please nobody come to this game. It's game 4, my daughter's dead tired. She's going to play terrible. This is going to be, you know. You go through that as a parent. But you know what's so neat? Is it doesn't matter. Because all these coaches get video of all these games. And you know what? Sometimes I've ruled out a player, or coaches have ruled out a player, and they rule him back in because a player sends an email and says, Coach, I hope you got to see me play in X, Y, and Z. My best game was against da-da-da at this time, and I had 4 caused turnovers, and you know, my athleticism really shows, and that's going to attract that coach to go maybe reevaluate you. So you are also maybe in the process, if someone says no, to being able to get them to say yes. You know, don't give up on that, but hopefully most coaches are honest with you. You know, when you get there, am I a scholarship player? It's a good question to ask. You know, maybe you're looking at a different division where it's only academic money that's coming into play. Would I be a candidate for academic money? Could you see me playing here? What do you feel my strengths are and things I need to work on? And you have to ask those questions so you can find out how to narrow down schools. And most coaches will be honest with you. I can tell you that my daughter wanted to go to some schools that didn't want her, and I constantly preached, go where you're loved. Go where you're loved, guys. This is so important. You know, my daughter was like, you know, we grew up in Maryland. You know, I'm going to University of Maryland. We grew up in Maryland. I was like, okay, let's go check it out. You know, but did that school show that love? Like, if my daughter was in the hospital, is that coach could be there? Seriously. Like, what I'm thinking as a parent is, are you going to care for my child like I care for my child? Now, are you going to help to raise them and mentor them the way that I would want that development to occur? You know, that's so important. The care of your child. Do you know that? A coach will let you know how much they care about your child. It shows up in finances. It shows up in their ability to spend time and communicate with you. And that's how you find a fit in that care. But go where you're loved. I promise you, you will develop lifelong friendships and relationships, and allow your coaches to coach and mentor you. They're not your friends and they're not your parents. There is a growth process that takes place. Just because a coach is challenging, you know, you have to allow that process to go through and take place. So what's my take for you and parents on this? So my daughter called me from college. She said, Mom, my coach won't watch film with me or do individual with me. You know, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, well, that's not fair. I would never do that as a coach. You know, I wanted to cry for her inside my heart, and then maybe I go talk to my husband about it. But when I get back on the phone with my daughter, I'm going to empower her. So what did I say? I said, Taylor, life's not fair. You know, there's 35 kids on that team. You're, you know, in the middle of the depth chart. If you want to do an individual, go do one with another teammate. If you want to watch film, get the film and review it on your own. If you want to be one of the people that have the opportunity to do that with a coach, you've got to work your way up to get that attention. But don't ruin it for for the other players that love that coach. Don't ruin it for the other people that value that program. We live in America. We have free choice and free will. And you have the opportunity, there's 99 to 100 plus 300 other schools in the country. If that's not the right fit for you after you got there and you realized that you're not meeting the goals that you set out in your recruiting process, that's okay. If the worst thing that happens is you have to transfer, so be it. You're going to go through worse things in life. You know, that ended up being the best thing for my daughter because she has some best friends now. She met her goal. She played. You know, so don't get so stressed out over it, but don't make it miserable for everybody else. You know, find a positive attitude about it. Make choices to set yourself up, but don't bring down coaches, other teammates, or that school because of your own personal feelings as a parent or a player. It's not fair, it's not worth it. We want people to stay in the profession. It's a hard, challenging profession. You work 70 hours a week. You saw my little guy here, right? It's hard to be a mom as a head coach. You need to support people in those roles, whether you like their personality or their style or not. And if that doesn't fit for you, go find another person, place, and location. Okay, so you guys, that's so important. So is that a fit? And then we get down to finances. So all divisions have different type of financial structures. So I went to Division III school. Only academic money was offered at my school for Division III, right? And so there's need-based aid at some schools, and that's based on your income as a family. And there's a FAFSA. FAFSA is a federal government profile form that you can fill out to see what kind of need you may qualify for. Also, there's financial aid calculators on most college websites that you can plug in your income and they will spit out what they might be able to help you with, need-based aid. Now, not all schools have need-based aid, so you have to go to their financial aid websites to see what kind of aid is offered at that school. Merit-based aid. Some schools have no merit. Ivy Leagues, no merit-based. Okay? Other schools might have honors-based aid all the way up to full tuition. You have to research that. You have to know where you fit in that and could you qualify for a merit-based aid. And then does the school offer athletic scholarships? You know, Division II and I schools, you know, they might have some athletic aid that could be a part of that. So you don't know the cost of the education. My dad, blue-collar electrician, says, you can go to a state school, but you're not going to a private school. But you know what? My private school ended up costing me the same amount as a state school education. But you know, it's very easy to just put the arm out and stick with the cube stake, you know, because you just don't know and you're not educated. So you have to really go through the whole process of that fit, from the first to the last, and see where the check marks are. You know, the finances are your last thing. A lot of people transfer in the process because they just go with the scholarship. They just go with the money. Don't just chase the money. If all those other things you can't put a check mark on, it's probably not going to be a great fit for you. Now, we're all looking for affordability, and nobody wants their kids to end up in debt with a lot of loan. That's important. But, you know, I took out a loan in school, and I really loved my choice and my fit, and I would pay that 10 times over today because I made the right choice. So investing in your education isn't a wrong thing. You know, it's all about being smart and waiting to see what the finances are and making that a part of the process, and then seeing where your wiggle room is, what you can afford as a family. You know, we told our daughter, we can afford, you know, 20% of tuition and your room and board. Like, I don't care what school you look at, as long as it comes down to that, hopefully we have 3 choices with that kind of finances. All right, that's the reality of our budgets. You know, some people have, you know, you can have a longer list, maybe you have more affordability. That's awesome. But don't make it just about the number that you see on College Board that says, oh, it's $50,000, can't do that. Because you don't know if you can do it. And so you go through the whole financial aid process. Okay? Remember that Division I schools cannot put a written offer together until the NLI signing process or August 1st of your of your senior year. They can't put it in writing. So parents, you have to write it down. Everything that you hear from a financial perspective, you've got to get it on paper in writing. Because I can tell you, from junior year to the end of time they graduate, it could be forgotten and misunderstood how the aids combined and where it's coming from. You don't want to be that finish the recruiting process and then get a wild card like, oh, I thought we were getting this extra money and not getting it. Okay, so you have to be super diligent in your communication process and your record of information. So what does that mean? Fit all the way across. Coaches are trying to find that fit. Players and parents are trying to find that fit. And when you find that great dating relationship, hopefully it ends up in this great marriage that you get for 4 years, that you end up with all the goals that you wanted, and you end up with the career that you wanted, and that you end up with a child that you can enjoy those memories and process with, the good and the bad and the wonderful, and you end up with an adult child that can live independently on their own, that's developed life skills to communicate with other adults and employers, to create success in their life because they were part of a team sport that taught them how to grow, handle adversity, create a better attitude, be selfless, and be hungry and humble. Wow. Like don't we all want that for our children and for ourselves as young ladies and men sitting in here? Growing as a person is one of the most important things we can do. My background is in counseling. So I ended up getting my master's degree in counseling. I was doing addictions counseling for a while. And my college coach kept emailing me saying, you should be a coach. You should be a coach. I'm like, no, I got to pay for these loans. You know, this is the education I have. She goes, trust me, you'll do a lot of counseling in college. And I was like, are you sure? And she said, yes, it'll be positive counseling because these will be things that these kids really want. You can help them grow into great adults. And I trust her because she was my best mentor and a friend after I graduated. And so I took that leap of faith and jumped into the coaching world at a really, really young age with very little experience. And what I've learned through this process is there is a lot of counseling that goes into team dynamics. And you guys are an important part of the process. I always say we give up individual rights to be a part of a team. Like there's core values and standards. Do your core values and standards for you as parents and how you conduct your life and how you want your children to conduct your life meet and match that coach, their philosophies, and that school's objectives? Like you gotta know that, guys, because if they don't align, that's where the headbutting will be. If there's a tool in counseling that I can give you that can work for you now, it can work for you through the recruiting process, and it can work for you when you're in college playing someday, is that attitude is the mind's paintbrush. It can color any situation. Attitude is the mind's paintbrush. It can color any situation. I've had rheumatoid arthritis since I was 18 years old. I've had 2 hip replacements the last 2 years after having a little guy. You know, I could wake up every day complaining that I'm in pain, I don't feel well, woe is me. You know, I tore my ACL in high school, I couldn't play on the Olympic field. I could make all these excuses, but I choose, as each one of us have the opportunity, the attitude to be a victor and not a victim. And every decision that you face in your life, that's what you have to ask yourself. Am I a victor or am I a victim? Am I blaming other people, places, and things? Or am I going to take my part of the accountability and be a winner and a champion life? Because the championship teams that we coach as coaches had those dynamics and qualities of people. It wasn't just talent. And follow a 24-hour communication rule. 24-hour communication rule works like this. So when I did marriage and family counseling, 95% of problems were miscommunications. You know, so-and-so tells somebody something, so-and-so heard it another way. So here's the rule. If you have a problem, or you're bothered, or you're offended, you have 24 hours to decide one of 2 things. Either you're going to let it go, or you're going to address that person. But we're not going to gossip. We're not going to throw other people under the bus. We're not going to create poor energy. You know, I'm not a very timely person. I know my strengths and weaknesses. If I keep you 15 minutes after practice, and you had a great practice, and your teammates walking back and they say, oh, I can't believe coach kept us an extra 15. Oops, she's cutting in my academic study time. Oh, I can't get enough dinner time. You know, now the person next to them who had a great practice, how's she feeling or he feeling? I just had a good practice, but yeah, you're right. She stinks. I can't believe that she kept us that extra 15 minutes, right? Energy is contagious, people. Refuse to allow those people on your bus. You can empathize with them. I understand how you feel, I understand your stress, but we don't sympathize with them and own that for ourselves, guys. It's so important. All right, so try to embrace some of these championship qualities that will help you as an individual and team member to be a part of the process. Parents, this should be fun and enjoyable for you. Create memories. Help your teams, help your clubs, be a parent support system. Don't be a parent complainer. Honestly, I almost wanted to get out of coaching several times because of the energy that it takes to deal with the 5%ers of parents and people that don't support and just have their own linear vision. Like, I respect your opinion, but I don't come into your job and tell you what to do because that's not my experience. Okay, so, and I'm not trying to be mean about that. I'm trying to say I'm a working mom that wants to stay in this profession and mentor and help your kid grow like all these coaches for the rest of their lives. Can you help me? Will you help me? If that's the attitude you take, your kids, you will be a winner. You'll create a great experience. You'll enjoy the process. The process should be fun. I'm so honored to be here with you guys today, and I'd like to open it up for Q&A. Yes?
Given the new rules, what is an appropriate frequency of communication? Let's say you have a freshman or sophomore who really wants to go to Johnson. You use a weekly progress email to you harassment, or maybe use a whole summer schedule of class?
So the question are timelines and what's appropriate communication and not. Okay, so the new recruiting rules for Division I say that coaches can't have any contact with you or their club director or your club director or high school coach about their interest in you until September 1st for boys and girls going into your junior year. All right, so we can evaluate, we can tell your high school coach or club coach an evaluation on you, like, oh, she's really fast or he's really, great defender footwork wise, but we can't say, hey, we really like that person, please, come to our school, and we have a scholarship for you. Those communications can't happen for Division I until September 1st of junior year. For other divisions, they have different rules in communication. Every coach is going to want different dialogue at different times. Each coach is on a different part of their recruiting process. So there's really, how do you know if a coach is going to be annoyed by your correspondence, if it's too much or too less? I think you have to be a squeaky wheel. I'm not saying being overbearing, but I think that most coaches are going to say that multiple touches and contacts. If you get 200 emails a day, what separates you? Maybe it's that you sent emails, and then maybe you followed up in a text, and then maybe you showed up at a camp. It's multiple contacts. So I would say that you want to email a week out before events. Go into your tournaments where you can be showcased to get their eyes on you, and then you want to follow up after those events, a week prior to their events, and then occasionally shoot something that you're doing. Like shoot something about a great game or experience that you had. Like help them to get to know you as a person, not just as a player. And when you're conducting emails, one thing that's super, super helpful, and thank you for asking, is make sure the subject line has most of the information that a coach would need. Last name, number, graduation year, club. Really, when it comes to them putting a list together, that's what they need. I'm not going to go reading a 2-page dialogue a week before I'm coming to an event to recruit. No coach is going to do that. Hey, they will spend time once they see those kids, if they like them, going back and reading those emails. But if they have the direct information and you put something maybe about your academics in the email body so they can see if you're a fit there, I think that's helpful, as well as anything that you think separates you or helps you to stand out as a player that they wouldn't know about you. You know, when you come watch me play, I'm known for being a great teammate, or I'm known for my defensive prowess, or I'm known for my footwork, or, you know, like something that you can help them to get to know you as a person and as a player. Does that help answer that a little bit? What are some other questions? Do we need to go over some timelines a little bit more? Okay, go ahead.
Question about the transfer process. You talked about your daughter. So when does she have time to research and find out the fit in the vetting process as a current student? Like, when did she have time to figure out where was the best place to land?
We had 1 month. It was painful. I was like, oh, you didn't want to let me know? A little bit more time. But basically, you know, we took the list that we had originally narrowed it down to, 5 schools, and just reopened it up with those 5. So we could do that in a month, and just got to narrow it down to, you know, 3 schools that you might want to visit, and that's how we were able to make that decision. Yes? So the question was, like, you're emailing, but you're not getting any love back or contact back. It depends on the division. Because remember that for Division I, you could do as much as you want, but you're not going to know until September 1st of your junior year if they're interested. And let me tell you, on that day, you'll know if they're interested. It's going to be fun. You know, you're going to get all those emails and phone calls, and, you know, you'll know then. For other divisions, some coaches are really good with time management and organization, and some maybe not. You know, so I would say if you're still interested in school, keep following up. But if you really need to get hard information on if you're a fit, they're a fit for you, and you're a fit for them, you've got to get face contact. You've got to get on their campus. You've got to get in front of them. You've got to meet their players, meet the coaches, and get those hard questions answered. And if you never hear anything back after you've attempted and you know that a coach had an opportunity to really reach you, they're probably not interested. We'd like to say that we can get back to everybody that a coach is not interested in, but the fact is there's just not enough hours in the day. So not communicating could also be a level of non-interest, but don't let that deter you. Make sure you know for sure. Use your networks and your channels of your club coaches, your high school coaches, whoever you think can best get those answers for you, and be relentless in the pursuit of information. You know, that's why I say vetting. This has got to be the #1 word you leave here with. You have to vet. You have to communicate. This is your process. At the end, you're going to check off hopefully 1 to 3 schools that you can say yes to, and then it can come down to the finances you get to choose from, right? Yes. Okay, so it was what time in high school, point in high school, should you start attending camps? I think camp attendance from middle school all the way up is important. From a developmental standpoint, but from a recruiting standpoint, you know, you have to recognize that your Division I schools, you know, before the recruiting rule came into place, most Division I schools at your top 20 or 30 were already on their 2020 class. Okay? Maybe the top 30 down to 50 were, you know, still on 2019s, and maybe the rest of your Division I's were still on 18s and 19s. Like, every school has a different process because maybe new coaches are acquired, or, you know, maybe they're really far in the process. But remember, the coaches drive that. As soon as the top programs start picking up kids, then it forces the other ones kind of into action. So I think that you have to be diligent just to get on campuses as soon as you can, just so it's not a pressure feeling. If you can get on camps and get a feel for coaches and players and the campus and the travel, your freshman year, that is such a benefit. If you can get there as a middle school kid and learn and develop and get to develop a relationship in middle school, that's great too. I'm just a big advocate for camps and getting on campuses as much as you can. Any other questions?
Are the winter camps better than the summer camps? Sometimes they have the winter break camps.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's different at all different schools. I know a lot of the men's programs do more prospect days, you know, where maybe the women's camps do a little bit more larger, like winter camp, summer camp. I think the prospect days are good, and I think with the new recruiting rules, all programs are going to be moving in that direction of prospect camps, and I think you should get into those, you know, because they're usually a smaller cohort, so they can really see your child a little bit more intimately in that situation. I really think numbers is a big thing to consider. I mean, we all want large numbers at our camps, but are those head coaches and other college coaches actually working with the kids? You know, like what kind of exposure are they getting? Or are they just sitting back watching them as if they're in a game here? You know, so I think more of the question for you is try to find other people that went to those camps, or, you know, you can talk to a coach about their camp. That's one thing at any age. You can call a coach and say, Coach, I'm interested in your camp. You know, tell me a little bit about the kind of coach-to-player ratio or other college coaches coming. You know, tell me a little bit about the experience you think my child could get at your camp. You know, I'm trying to narrow it down. I have a budget on how many camps I can get to. So again, vet the camps to try to collect the information you need to make that financial decision to put your child in that. Does that answer that a little bit? Yes.
What is the difference between a clinic, a camp, and a prospect day?
Okay, that's a good question. Clinic, a camp, and a prospect day. Okay, so clinics are usually a little bit smaller in nature. They might be tailored to some type of specific development. Maybe it's just stick development at a clinic, or you know, it's usually a little bit more specified at a clinic. At a prospect day, it's a little similar, but that means that you're a recruitable, you know, student athlete. If you come to a prospect day, that means you're really interested in that school. At least the coach knows that, is my thought on that. And camps can be multifaceted. It can be a growth and fundamental learning process, which you should get in the other things too. But at usually the big, you know, the camps, you're going to be able to play and see the committed kids going into their program, because they usually come to their camps. So let's be honest, like, you could go meet a senior on a campus, but your child's probably not going to play with that kid. So when you get to maybe one of those camps, you can actually have your child play and interact and live in the dorm with those kids that they may end up playing with. But I think all is valuable. Some schools do play days. They'll do like 77 Queen of the Hill or play days. Those are really good venues too, because they're pretty usually small in nature. It's like a smaller tournament venue. Again, really just vet it, and whatever you're looking for in that clinic, prospect day, or camp experience, make sure to find out from that camp director what they really offer. Any other questions? Yes. I do recommend emailing assistant coaches, because like, unless on their website it specifies who their recruiting coordinator is, if you get enough eyes on that type of email, then the person who actually handles putting those lists together, some head coaches, if they don't put the list together themselves, will forward it, but it just stops that process of having to do that. So I do like including the assistants so that they can then decide who's going to manage that email. Good question. Yes?
You still get recruited if you're not part of the club team?
Sure, yeah. You know, I think that coaches look at all different venues. A lot of it depends on where you're located regionally, you know, what opportunities are available. But, you know, some student athletes are just going to do showcase things where they go to a tryout and they get part of a team. You know, events like this is awesome, because you're mixing with people you don't know. And let's be honest, when you go to college, do you know your teammates? Probably not. So for a coach to see you in a venue like this, where you're not as comfortable with your friends, that is so cool. You know, a lot of the coaches do recruit the clubs. That is probably one of the number one ways, but maybe if you're in a region where coaches can get to local high school games, some coaches, that's where they really recruit is, you know, the high school games. So it really just depends on the relationships that coach has to where they draw their talent or their recruiting from. Look at rosters. Rosters will tell you where they draw from. You know, is it all Long Island? Is it a mixture across the Southeast? You know, that's important. When we were going back through their transfer process, I looked at a roster and I was like, you know, you'd be the only kid from Florida on that team. I'm not just saying it's okay, but keep in mind, like, you got to have that Long Island edge, you know, if you're going up to Long Island and playing with all Long Island kids. So, good question. Anything else? Yeah. Yes, Division III coaches can have contact and communication with different age groups that the rules with Division I aren't privileged to. They can with the player, but also the club coach can have a little bit more dialogue about the recruiting process with Division III. Anything else? Well, I hope that I met the goals for you today, which was to create a little bit more tools in your toolbox on the recruiting process and being a champion and winner in life with just some qualities and characteristics that can help you grow in your communication skills and your attitude and your mindset to be successful so that you can grow up to be an amazing, independent young man and woman and create wonderful memories and experiences for yourself. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here and serve today.